7 p.m, Llandudno. The Holyhead Coast Guard have received a 999 call and the Inshore lifeboat has been launched. The weather has taken a turn for the worse and 2 young men in kayaks are in danger.
By the breakwater closest to the little port and are shouting for help. Over.
Holyhead Coast Guard, that's all received. We'll let you know when we're on scene, over.
The two have been kayaking in Penrhyn Bay, but they're now out of their boats and drifting in the offshore current out to sea. Waves are reaching 4 foot out of the bay.
Just confirm that the on the Penrhyn Bay side of the breakwater, over. Affirmative. Yeah, ETA about 2 minutes.
As soon as we came around the corner, one of the crewmen spotted 2 persons in the water.
They head towards a man treading water next to an upturned kayak, but he waves them on.
Get in first! Hold on to your board, mate!
The second man in the water is clinging desperately to another kayak. They've been in the water for 30 minutes.
He was just really clinging on. Really seemed like he was struggling to hold on. We've been in the water for a long period of time at this point.
Yes, we're at the casualties now, and we've got visual on 3 people, and we're out of the water now, over. Okay, mate.
Alright.
With one casualty safe, they head back to the first man, Chad, and pull him aboard. Chad seems okay at first, but he's been through quite an ordeal. The friend he'd been teaching to kayak was capsized by a large wave and unable to free himself.
Sure.
The thing with capsizing, as scary as it can be, you have to just let yourself fall out of the boat, which involves lying upside down, just letting your legs fall out. It's the only safe way to do so. His first reaction was to try and get his head up above the water. By doing so, his legs were still caught in the kayak, and he was lying on his back trying to get his head up over the water. The waves kept coming over his head, so he was gasping for air.
It was an attempt to save his friend that ended up with both men in danger in the water.
He had hold of my boat. He was panicking by this point, which was making mine quite unstable. Next came what was a mistake on my behalf, I think.
Chad jumped out of his own kayak into the sea, but his plan to pull both kayaks together into a makeshift raft didn't work.
As soon as I jumped out, grabbed his, turned around, I couldn't see him anymore. He drifted really far, really quickly.
Clinging to Chad's abandoned kayak, his friend is taken by strong currents into deeper and colder waters. Thankfully, Chad's parents have witnessed it all. His mum raised the alarm as Dad paddled out to reach the stricken friend.
I'd got him on the front of the canoe on a rope, and I was starting to row him back in when the Coast Guard appeared.
I heard the engine of the lifeboat coming around, which one of the nicest noises I've heard in a long time. As soon as the boat came to me, I knew I was okay for a bit longer.
He's out of the water but still in danger of hypothermia. Chad is feeling the effects of the cold sea.
The adrenaline had taken over everything, and the panic and the worry of the situation. As soon as I was pulled into the boat, the cold really hit me.
We'd been in the water for up to half an hour. We were obviously starting to get into the hypothermia stages, and one of the lads, after 2-3 minutes, started really shaking, didn't really talk much.
You sure you're alright, mate?
And when they reach the shore, Chad can barely stand.
I stood up and my legs just suddenly seized. I realised I'd gone very, very cold very quickly, and I couldn't move. They just completely seized up.
Okay. And he's shivering a hell of a lot.
As we got to the beach, he became so cold and shaking, he couldn't walk, he couldn't move. He managed to stand himself up, at which point I decided to pick him up, carry him onto the beach. He was then taken off in an ambulance, and he was checked over. I think he had mild hypothermia.
He and his friend made a full recovery. He hasn't been put off kayaking, but he does have a new respect for the sea.
See how powerful the current is offshore and how fast it dragged him. It's given me a newfound respect for the dangers out there. It was definitely a lesson.